Hello and welcome to the video. So today I'm going to be going through my first 20-25 turns for Karak Kadrin and Ungrim Ironfist's campaign. I'll be playing on legendary difficulty and very hard battle difficulty, but I imagine that this should also be very possible on lower difficulties as well. When you start off the campaign, you want to be putting your runesmith in the army and then attacking the first army, just manually resolving it. The auto-resolving really costs too many soldiers, so you want to just be manually resolving, trying to conserve what you've got. The replenishment rate for dwarven units is pretty poor. So I think one of the most important aspects of this campaign, and really what differentiates a lot of dwarven campaigns, is what technologies you go for. As a general rule, Ungrim really struggles with growth, the economy, and public order. That's really one of the hardest things. He just doesn't have that much going for him, unlike, say, Thorgrim, who's got Karak 8 pigs and just gets a lot of those bonuses from a very early point, or at least he either gets growth or public order or something like that. So in order to make up for this, you need to be quite aggressive. It's very hard to deal with the Greenskins and the Skaven when they've got going. So for turn 2, you just want to force march. You recruit on turn 1, you recruit 3 Slayers, you beat the army, and then you just rush. Grashnak Slayer. Now, when I took this settlement, I managed to get the Slayer Ward, which is the best case scenario. I also got a really good weapon, so I kind of got lucky. Weapon's not that important. The Slayer, the upkeep reduction to Slayers is really, really strong. So if you are struggling, getting that is probably the single best thing you can do in the early game for your campaign, because this means that you've got more money to spend. You've got a lot more flexibility in what buildings you make. So for example, normally if I didn't get the Slayer Ward, I'd build a lot of toolmakers, get that money coming in, but since I know that I've got a 20% reduction, I focus more on growth. So I leave the growth building and I can push up Karak Kadrin to tier 3, which allows me to get better public order. So this campaign for me was a little bit of an outlier, but you can just keep doing the campaign since it's only turn 2 to get that Slayer Ward, and that would be my best advice if you really are struggling with it. So in terms of armies, I just like to make a full stack of Slayers. As you can see, it's turn 4 now, and I'm kind of just slowly pushing, getting to every single settlement and taking them out as quickly as possible without waiting. I think they must have changed the campaign recently, because in 2 turns you can get to the last settlement in the region. I think before you had to underway a couple of times and it was a bit more awkward. So the advantage of that is that you can take them out a lot quicker. Disadvantage is he's not as well leveled. Ungrim's not as well leveled, so it's a harder fight. So this next fight is going to be the hardest that you do. It's not unwinnable. Auto-resolve is actually a really good option. As you can see, when I come up here, I looked at how powerful the Red Eye were, and they do have more troops than you, which is a problem. Slayers in general are stronger, but if they get surrounded, due to their low armor, they do tend to get wiped out pretty quickly. As you can see, I won that. I took huge casualties, so auto-resolve would have been better in this case. I definitely could have played the battle better, but I think auto-resolve would overall be equal to or greater than manually doing it. But if you want to manually do it, it's still quite a winnable fight. So for the runesmith, just prioritize that AoE. You're going to be versing Skaven and Greenskins, both of which like to make a lot of units. As for Ungrim, I like to just buff the Slayers. Normally, if I was playing any other dwarf, I'd go for Lightning Strike. It really depends what campaign you're going for. So for example, if I'm playing Belagar, I like to get that extra ammunition in order to take the Karak 8 peaks. But for Thorgrim, I definitely go for that Lightning Strike early on, because you're versing Grimgore and you're going to need it for War. So as you can see, I took out the Red Eye. Now, in this campaign, since I took so many casualties, I had to stay there for a couple of turns in order to get all my troops back. I just made Slayers. Normally, if you auto-resolve that previous battle, what I normally do is just delete my dwarves and just get the Slayers, or delete the traditional dwarven units and go for the Slayers, because you get so many bonuses from Ungrim. It makes it worth it in the early game. I'd say the single biggest bonus you get from Ungrim is the 30% replenishment rate. One of the huge problems with dwarves is that their replenishment rate is really bad. If you've got Gromendor, you can increase that and improve it, but every other lord, it's tough going. The war of attrition is very real, especially if you're playing against Grimgor. So you have to be very careful, but not for Ungrim. Once you get that 30% replenishment rate, it's pretty much you can heal from any battle, especially in tandem with his other ability, which means you don't lose units until the total health of the Slayer unit gets to 75%, which means more units will survive, and so you get better ratios for the end screen after battles. And so more of your units survive, and replenishment isn't as important. But so as you can see, I built up my army. Not quite a full stack, but since the update, you've been allowed to get Slayers from your Regiment of Renown pool, just from the grudge mechanic, which is really useful. Biggest weakness of this army is that you don't have any siege equipment. You can make siege equipment if you want, but I don't find it to be that important. Outside of the Greenskins, both Skaven and Vampire counts, so the Lemayan Sisterhood and Clan Gridus, they've got minor settlements, Vampire counts just aren't a problem for Slayers. It's a really good matchup, since they've pretty much got cavalry, monsters, and infantry. So in terms of runes, and you should definitely be getting your runes as they come up. What I would be doing is prioritizing the Rune of Dismay, or if I got that wrong, the rune that gives the -3 leadership to all, to -3 leadership to all troops in the battle, as well as giving the fear mechanic for both your Lord and your Runesmith. So giving it to Ungrim, giving it to the Runesmith. It really helps, and Skaven and Greenskins are notorious for making low leadership units. Now at this point, my recommendation would be, once you've taken Red Eye Mountain, to go over to Karak. It'll take 2 turns, and just farm it for a couple of turns. I took it straight away. It was a bit of a mistake, and what your aim is just to farm that settlement, get a couple of levels for Ungrim, and then deal with the rebellion that'll happen at Karak Kadrin. Because public order is just going to be a problem until you get those technologies, you get the public order buildings in all the settlements. Because I have prioritized growth over public order. I don't think just going for public order is that good. You don't really have the money or the economy to just go for public order. That means you'll have to make a half stack. Now I did get lucky, I got the Slayer Ward, but that's really up to you if you have that. If you don't have the Slayer Ward, you're definitely going to need money. You can't get a full stack if you don't focus it. So over the next couple of turns, you can see I'm kind of just milling about, not really doing anything. It's a little bit inefficient, so I definitely farm that. The only variable, because I do like to get my non-aggression packs with both Kislev and Sylvania, the only variable here is Clan Gridus. If they're not at war with the Lemayan Sisterhood, before you, when you get into contact with them, they'll most likely declare war on you, and they're very aggressive, and they are quite a problem. So if they do declare war on you, you're going to need to deal with them over sort of wasting your time building up levels on your hero. But if they're not at war with you, then you really do want to be getting levels. So for both regions, both the Red Eye Mountain and Karak Kadrim, since I did get the Slayer Ward, I've prioritized growth, but for both of them you want to be getting a tier 2 settlement or a tier 3 settlement and getting a public order building and gold. But if you do get the Slayer Ward, you can mess about a bit with growth as well.
The Slayer in me seeks death. I've been looking forward to this. Prepare to be ripped. I must fulfill my Slayer oath. Demand what's down. Tell me where it is. Welcome, my bearded king. Yes. I am the Slayer King. Seek our doom. It is time.
So once you have dealt with the rebellion that'll appear, you don't have to worry about public order. If you've got a public order building and a gold building, you shouldn't have to worry about public order in Karak Kadrim. For Karak, for the Red Eye Mountain, you can reduce taxes, change your commandment, do whatever you can just to not have to worry about public order. You don't want to be going back, you want to be aggressive, you want to be pushing, getting rid of all the Skaven in the area or the Greenskins in the area. And you want to be prioritizing pushing south, helping Ungrim and Grombendal against Grimgor. That's your priority. Grimgor as dwarves is always the #1 priority.
I grow restless.
Because he's always the biggest threat, and then Clan Ash and Clan Moors as well. But as we move across, I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of what I like to do after I've taken out Clan Critus. Now, also in terms of technologies, since I do go and get the technology that gives more that affects your commandments, it also opens up the oaths of loyalty and all the oaths and all the technologies associated with that, and that gives public order and diplomacy with Karak Kadrim, and that's really important. It's quite difficult in the early game to confederate Karak Kadrim just because they just don't like you that much. You're not that strong. And it is important because sometimes Grimgor can just wipe them out, so being able to confederate them early on can stop that. Worst case scenario, they get wiped out before you get there. So that's why it's important to sort of rush through, take out the Greenskins. Also, the Greenskins almost become very difficult to deal with if you're not quick as well. But as you can see, I'm moving across. What I like to do is stay in the mountains underway, right onto the vampires. Running around's kind of annoying. And this also, going north also gives me the option to go to the Red Eye Mountain if there, for whatever reason, there's actually going to be a problem with public order. And you shouldn't have too much trouble against the vampire counts. They've got a lot of skeleton spearmen, skeleton warrior zombies. It's very weak. Clan Gridus, on the other hand, can be difficult, can be easy. A little bit of luck. Overall, you shouldn't have too much trouble against them. The only thing that Slayers struggle against is the Storm Vermin, which they can make. So once you've taken out the Lemurian Sisterhood and Clan Gridus, you have a tricky option. So to complete the Silver Pinnacle region, you have to head quite far north. Now that gets, if you take the final settlement in the region, the Silver Pinnacle region, you remove a grudge, which is really good, because you get the public order bonuses and the research bonuses that are associated with that. But you also come into contact, or you make yourself vulnerable to both the Gromundi tribe, which I know I said wrong, but as well as Clan Mulder. And that's something I avoid, so I don't take that last settlement. It is very tempting to. If you do want to take it, it is an option. But I would definitely recommend, if you do take it, heading up and taking out the Gromundi tribe. Clan Mulder's probably not a good idea to go for. You definitely want to be heading south, but finishing off those Norskins is a really good idea. Most factions don't like to resettle that area very quickly, so you've got quite a bit of time before anyone appears there. For the Silver Pinnacle, I like to get the public order building as well as growth. You can go for gold as well. It's really up to you what you do. In that regard, it's not too important. It's really just making sure you don't have to come back north. But my advice for this would just be not to take Seep Gore. Don't worry about, not Seep Gore, Karak Flag. Don't take it. It's not worth it. Ignore it. You don't get the region, but you know, who cares? It doesn't really matter. And this means that you've created a barrier between you and both Clan Mulder and the Gromundi tribe, and so they won't come and attack you. Or at least the Norskins won't. Or if they do come and attack you, they'll go to Red Eye Mount first. But it's just about keeping a distance from them. The longer it takes for them to declare war on you, the better. So as you can see, Clan Gridus declared war on me straight away. Once the Lemurian Sisterhood weren't involved, they attacked me straight away, and that's what you can expect if they're not at war with the Lemurian Sisterhood. They're very, very aggressive, even though it says a minor faction. And they can be very problematic, but as I said before, Skaven are pretty good for Slayers. But that's the overall gist of my guide. Once you've finished off Clan Gridus, don't head north, head south, confederate Karak Kadrim, and if you can do all of that, I can pretty much guarantee that your campaign will be very, very good from there. So I hope you enjoyed this guide. I'll be doing most of my guides in the future like this. I found it very hard to do these kind of guides since I sort of do a lot of iterations of it and it take a very long time. So it's going to be a bit more casual, but I hope you did learn something, and then this helps with your campaigns and it just makes the game a lot more enjoyable. But until next time, I will see you in the next video.
I must fulfill my Slayer oath. Speak out to me. I grow restless. Others, my lord. I am the Slayer King. Onward. Moving. To die in battle. I must fulfill my Slayer oath.
There's no surrender. I've been looking forward to this.
It is time. The Slayer in me seeks death.